Long ago, when the Persian Empire ruled as the mightiest kingdom on earth, King Ahasuerus sat upon his splendid throne. His empire stretched from India in the east to Ethiopia in the west, ruling over 127 provinces. In the capital city of Susa, the king's palace glittered with marble pillars, golden vessels, and royal banquets that flaunted his glory before nobles and governors from every corner of his domain. Yet, beyond the dazzling courts and extravagant feasts, another story was unfolding. A story not written by the hand of kings, but by the unseen hand of God. Among the many citizens of Susa lived a Jew named Mordecai, a descendant of the tribe of Benjamin, whose ancestors had been carried away from Jerusalem during the Babylonian exile. Though far from his homeland, Mordecai lived honorably in this foreign land, guided by the faith of his fathers. Mordecai worked near the king's gate, a place of political discourse and royal business. He was not a man of high rank, but his integrity and wisdom were known to those around him. Yet Mordecai's life was not consumed with his own affairs, for he had taken upon himself the care of his orphaned cousin Hadassah, whom he raised as his own daughter. She was known by her Persian name, Esther. Esther was not only beautiful, but carried herself with grace, humility, and quiet strength. In her, Mordecai had instilled the values of their people and faith in the God of Israel. These qualities would soon carry her far beyond either of their imaginations. One day, as the king entertained nobles with a grand banquet, he summoned Queen Vashti to appear before his guests and display her beauty. But Vashti refused. Infuriated by her defiance, King Ahasuerus stripped her of her royal title and sent out a decree to search for a new queen from among the most beautiful young women in the land. From across the empire, maidens were gathered and brought to the palace. Esther was among them. Though she concealed her Jewish identity, as Mordecai had advised, her character set her apart. She won the favor of Hegai, the king's eunuch in charge of the women, and soon captured the king's own heart. Ahasuerus placed the royal crown upon Esther's head, making her queen of Persia. Yet even in the palace's luxury, Esther remained faithful to the God of her people. One day, as Mordecai sat at his post near the king's gate, he overheard a sinister conversation. Two of the king's officers, Bigthan and Teresh, were plotting to assassinate King Ahasuerus. Mordecai acted quickly, sending word to Esther, who reported the plot to the king in Mordecai's name. The conspiracy was exposed, the traitors were executed, and the event was recorded in the royal chronicles. Though no reward came to Mordecai at that time, this simple act of loyalty was carefully noted, and would later play a pivotal role in God's providential plan. As time passed, a man named Haman rose to power, becoming the highest official in the king's court. Proud and vain, Haman demanded that everyone bow before him in reverence. All complied, except for one man, Mordecai. Mordecai's refusal was not born of stubborn pride, but of his loyalty to God. He would not bow to any man, for only the Lord was worthy of worship. Haman's anger flared into a blinding hatred not only for Mordecai, but for all Jews throughout the empire. Determined to destroy them, Haman approached the king with deceitful words, portraying the Jews as rebellious and dangerous. Ahasuerus, trusting his advisor, issued a royal edict to exterminate the entire Jewish population on a single day chosen by casting lots. As the decree spread, terror gripped the hearts of the Jewish people. Mourning and weeping filled the streets. When Mordecai learned of the decree, he tore his garments, donned sackcloth, and sat at the king's gate in mourning. Word of his grief reached Esther within the palace walls. She sent a messenger to inquire, and Mordecai revealed the plot. In reply, Mordecai sent her a message that would forever change her life. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? These words pierced Esther's heart. She recognized that her royal position was not for her own comfort, but for a divine purpose. Yet approaching the king uninvited was dangerous. By Persian law, it could mean death. With courage that flowed from her faith, Esther replied, "Go, gather all the Jews in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days. I and my attendants will fast as well. Then I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." After 3 days of fasting and prayer, Esther approached the throne room. The king saw her, and instead of condemning her, he extended his golden scepter, sparing her life. "What is your request, Queen Esther? Even up to half the kingdom, it shall be given to you." Instead of immediately exposing Haman, Esther invited the king and Haman to a private banquet. At the banquet, she extended yet another invitation for a second banquet. That night, the king could not sleep. Restless, he ordered the royal records to be read aloud. In those records, he heard the account of Mordecai's earlier loyalty in exposing the assassination plot. Struck by his oversight, the king asked, "What honor has been bestowed on Mordecai for this?" "Nothing has been done," came the reply. At that moment, Haman entered, intending to request Mordecai's execution. Before he could speak, the king asked Haman what should be done for the man the king delights to honor. Believing the king meant to honor him, Haman proposed an extravagant display: royal robes, a crown, and a grand procession. To his horror, the king commanded, "Go at once. Do all you have suggested for Mordecai, the Jew." Forced to honor his enemy publicly, Haman was humiliated. His plans were unraveling, though he did not yet realize just how completely. At the second banquet, the king again asked Esther to state her request. With steady courage, she revealed her plea: "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, spare my life and the lives of my people. For we have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated." The king, stunned, demanded, "Who is he? Where is the man who would dare to do such a thing?" With unwavering voice, Esther pointed across the table. "The adversary and enemy is this vile Haman." Fury erupted in the king's heart. As servants rushed to cover Haman's face, one of the king's attendants reported that Haman had built gallows to hang Mordecai. Without hesitation, the king ordered Haman to be hanged on the very gallows he had prepared for his enemy. Though Haman was gone, the danger remained. The original decree still stood, and under Persian law, no royal edict could be revoked. At Esther's request, King Ahasuerus issued a new decree, allowing the Jews to defend themselves against any attackers. When the appointed day came, the Jews stood together and prevailed against their enemies. Throughout the provinces, their deliverance was complete. Mordecai was elevated to second in command to the king, honored for his wisdom and courage. And the Jews rejoiced, establishing the festival of Purim to commemorate their great deliverance, a celebration that continues to this day. The story of Esther is one of divine providence, working silently yet powerfully through ordinary people placed in extraordinary circumstances. Though God's name is never mentioned in the book, his fingerprints are found on every page. He guides history, orchestrates events, and brings deliverance in ways that no human could foresee. Esther's courage reminds us that God often places us in positions not for comfort, but for purpose. Mordecai's wisdom reminds us to trust God's sovereign plan, even in the face of danger. And the entire story testifies that even when God appears silent, He is always present, guiding, protecting, and delivering His people. May each of us, like Esther, recognize the moments God has prepared us for and step forward in faith for such a time as this.